All right, Rich and Javier, we got two co-hosts tonight to help cover for my lack of vocal endurance with the cold and cough I've been battling this week. Let's start with Rich and get your take on this main event. Chaotic match, Jacob Fatu, Cody Rhodes, Sami Zayn battling for entry into the Elimination Chamber. Drew McIntyre interferes late in the match. Rich, kind of describe what happened there, just save my voice a little bit, and tell me what you thought of the journey they took, especially in those final 3-4 minutes.
Sure. I mean, all night we've been building to this. Sammy's not necessarily bitterness, but the thoughts that maybe his time has kind of passed by. We get to the match itself, and I thought that all three men looked great before the interference. Fatu was basically the dump truck running through everyone, while Cody and Sami tried to kind of get their licks in when they could. The camera focus was really helpful with that final portion, because as the main event kind of pulled towards the end, Sami tried to get his Blue Thunder Bomb that he never pins anyone with. And finally, things went the way of Jacob Fatu, and so you thought, hey, maybe this is it. Sammy's down, he hits the moonsault, and then 1-2, bam, and you see the white sneaker of Drew McIntyre with a Claymore kick, and Drew basically camps out for the majority of the finish of the show, waiting to make sure neither Cody nor Jacob would win. But while doing that, he suffered the penalty with getting a haluva kick from Sami, but that left Sami open for Cody, and a Crossroads did it, and so Cody qualified. The fans were great. I thought this was a very hot main event, and I thought really all three men looked really, really good.
Javier, your turn.
Yeah, I thought it was a good main event. The weird thing is, this entire show felt like we had no finishes, but I just checked and there were a couple finishes. I kind of, you kind of knew that Drew was going to get involved. I'd be more angry with Aldis because, where were the refs? It's something that we, you could see it coming a mile away. How could Aldis not? But it's in service of the story. I'm looking forward to Sami Zayn's reactions from this. Because he did the right thing in attacking Drew McIntyre, and then it could be seen by him that Cody was being opportunistic, and he took a shot while Sami was taking care of Drew. So that could be a way that it'll frame, because they're gonna obviously doing something big with a story with Sami, and I could see this be like something where Sami's like, hey, You took advantage of the fact that I had just taken out Drew, and you hit me with the Crossroads, and that's not cool. So I could see that maybe be either an impetus for a Sami Zayn heel turn, or like leading you in that direction, and then he ends up being it's like the temptation. Let's call it the temptation of Sami Zayn.
Yeah, Rich, play out the different ways, or one way that you think is definitively most likely that this all leads, based on all the things Javier just described.
Sure. First of all, the fact that Cody and Sami have now lost a match where they were trying to do the right thing due to outside interference, and how that can push them both into the directions they may need to go. Jacob is a force of nature, so for him, the Drew McIntyre comeuppance will come in whatever it's going to form. It's going to come down the road. But should there be, whether it's a last chance, sometimes they'll do that with elimination chambers where they take the folks who hadn't had a chance to qualify and give them a last chance kind of remix. If Sami does make it back in there, that would make some interesting behaviors in the cell, in terms of if they do wind up having a face off, or if either man has an opportunity to do the right thing, but they might need to do the smart thing.
So how do they, and sorry if you covered this, but how does the chamber play out? Cody's in 3 more spots, right? Are open as of there.
Yeah, because they did the advertisement for, I guess it's 3 Raw, 3 SmackDown, and they did in the middle of the show, they mentioned the next 2 that would happen next week, I believe.
Yeah. So Javier, how does Jacob Fatu is he in the chamber and qualify, and then we get a finish that leads to a triple threat, or does Jacob Fatu end up in a singles match before that against Drew? I think someone suggested that in the chat. Darrell says, I think Fatu has to try to get a match with Drew at the chamber. So play that out a little bit more too.
You put me at the spot there because I'm trying to picture how it works.
I don't know.
You could, I mean, I could see any of the three involved to get a shot with a fight with Drew without the title on the line. I could see that be something that he'll specifically say no title on the line. And let's say it's for sake of argument, let's say it is Fatu because Fatu is not going to be in the Elimination Chamber match, or Sami Zayn, one of the two. Then they could get a match, beat Drew without the title on the line, and then that gets them in as an extra man in the WrestleMania match.
Or title's on the line, it's a screwy finish, and they decide Jacob deserves it because of something that happens. Rich, pick up on that.
Yeah, Aldis is pretty good at trying to level the playing field with things like this. So if he determines that because of the actions of Drew to eliminate folks that he didn't want in as potential threats to his title, instead you're going to get a triple threat or a four-way with all of them. And that could be an option as well. Because I think at this point, the more this goes on, the more Cody, Jacob, and Sami may have legitimate arguments that they should have a shot at Drew. Probably more Sami to the background and Jacob and Cody to the fore. But I think it'll need to play out once the chamber stuff happens.
Derek Mitchell in the chat says, if Sami goes the route Javier suggested, it just makes Sami look whiny and self-righteous, and no one likes a whiner. I bet somebody does. Black Magic 5292 says, Sami heel turn surely coming. Crowds turning on him also helps. And Darrell adds, it sure did feel like they're trying to turn Sami heel. Javier, does a heel Sami work? Does a tweener, conflicted, make bad decisions temporarily Sami, who then quickly snaps back to the good side? Is that a story arc that you see is possible?
Yeah, I could see them try to play like I mentioned, the Temptation. He starts making bad decisions. They kind of did that with Jay. Where Jay was snapping on people too. I think Sami's more inherited that story now since Jay kind of went to the tag team stuff. And I think that'll work because people like Sami, so it'd be one of those cases where Sami, no, don't do that. That's not you, and get the crowd to be the ones that pull him back from the edge. And that increases the crowd's investment in the character. The only thing I want to keep in mind is the fact they're doing so much work with him and Trick Williams that I don't know if this is just Sami's been thrown in there just so it's not about just Jacob Fatu, Cody, and Drew Triumvirate, and just to throw Sami in there temporarily to mix things up. When eventually it's just going to be, Sami's ultimate goal, Sami's ultimate going to be written out in order to deal with Trick. So that's the other thing I want to, keep in mind, because they did it again with Sami, telling Ray Phoenix to teach Trick Williams a lesson. So.
Rich, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think Javier nailed it.
So Mike, what do you think the WrestleMania match for Drew is going to be at this point? And maybe we can extrapolate that from some of what you said. But Rich, starting with you, what are the options that exist? What kind of percentage do you put on them based on the lay of the land and the big shows yet to come?
Well, given what's happened and what I could see happening at the chamber where Drew yet again interferes, I think it's going to be a multi-person match. Yeah. I'm not quite sure right now, depending on how much they want to push Sami as a heel, if it's going to be a three-way or a four-way. But it would be Jacob, Cody, and then Drew, with Sami maybe lurking as that fourth person.
Special referee, Sami Zayn. Javier, four-way, three-way, or do we just end up with Drew, Cody one-on-one and Fatu and Sami or something, or Sami splits off or misses another WrestleMania, and then they have him booked for something afterwards?
And hell, I'm gonna give you a 0.00% chance, or hell, throw Trick into it, make it a five-way. Because we did have Trick cross paths with Drew McIntyre, so This is the one that kind of feels like they're making it up as they go along,
Yeah.
of all the stuff going on. Because
Yep.
so I think more likely it'll probably just be the 3-way. That's what I'm leaning more strongly towards. I think it just makes sense for if they want to tell a long-term Sammy's story to pay off in the Saudi Arabia WrestleMania. This could be the start of a long journey where he starts going, dark, and then like about SummerSlam he'll flip a little bit. Maybe by then KO will be the one who comes back and brings him back, that sort of thing. Something from the past that drags him back to the light side. And you told like a long storyline leading into that, and then his big payoff will be next WrestleMania. I know he's not like, he's not the guy who would say that, like Roman Reigns or Cody, that's like, I could see him as a champion. But if you tell a good enough story, you could have him be a champion for a little bit and just get that to him.
Yeah, Standard Deviation says in the chat, assuming Sammy's moment comes in 14 months, they'll need to find various ways to extend that story. Darrell says, I'd love to see Sammy in a 3-way with Drew and Fatu at the Chamber. Sammy lose in that, helping him go down the road as a heel. With that finally comes with him losing to Trick at Mania. So, yeah, variety of paths there. Interesting scenario there. Let's pause and briefly introduce the show, and then we'll get back to conversation here. This is the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Post Show on Friday, February 13th, 2026. I'm Wade Keller, host of the show, editor, publisher, and founder of PWTorch, the weekly paper copy newsletter, now also in PDF and alt text format for our VIP members, along with overseeing and editing and writing for PWTorch.com, our main website. If you are not visiting PWTorch.com, check it out. I've got live coverage of Raw, Dynamite, and SmackDown with details in case you're missing the show and commentary in case you are watching the show and want to see what stood out to me, along with a ton of other features throughout the week. And then also the host of various podcasts, including, by the way, earlier today, an episode of Everything with Rich and Wade, a VIP exclusive. Rich and I approached 90 minutes and covered a wide array of topics, including an in-depth preview of AEW Grand Slam Australia, which takes place tomorrow night, Saturday night at 8 Eastern, 7 Central on tape delay on TNT. We also got into the Brody King situation and the lack of follow-up and various reports that have been pushed back on regarding why there was no follow-up on it. So we got into that and a variety of other topics. So check that out if you're not a VIP member, pwtorch.com/GoVIP. For full details on all the ways to sign up, you can get a 7-day free trial through Patreon or Spotify. Just search PWTorch VIP. You can also get a free trial through your Apple account. Just search Wade Keller. Just search PWTorch in your Apple podcast account. If you use the native Apple podcast app on your iPhone, and you'll see a charcoal gray logo pop up. That is our VIP free sample feed, but it unlocks all the VIP shows if you upgrade to a VIP membership within the app, and that'll give you all the VIP shows, plus versions of our free shows with commercial breaks taken out, so it's a nice streamlined listening experience. You can get a free trial and experience that for yourself. Again, search PWTorch in the Apple Podcast app and subscribe. But you can also sign up with credit card, debit card, or PayPal and unlock full VIP membership benefits, nearly 4 decades of archives, customizable podcast feeds compatible with Apple Podcasts, iOS and Android apps, and more. New exclusive content, fully detailed at pwtorch.com/govip. The aforementioned Rich Fann is joining me today as co-host. If you're watching us on YouTube, he is the one in the middle. I was going to say he's the one with the glasses, but that doesn't help. Or the headset or the beard. But he is the one without hair on top of his head. There we are. And to his right is Javier Machado, a PWTorch contributor. And he has a beard and glasses and headphones, but hair on the top of his head. Beats both of us in that regard. Javier, good to have you here too. Again, as I said at the top of the show, 2 co-hosts, because as you can hear, I don't know if my voice is going to last to do more than throw topics out there as the show progresses here. All Rich's fault, because he let me talk more than I vowed I was going to earlier today on everything. So I'm paying the price for that. I'm not feeling great, but I'm not feeling awful either. So don't feel bad for me. I think I sound worse than I feel, but feel a little bad for me because I don't feel great. But anyway, who cares, right? Let's talk SmackDown. Javier, welcome.
Thanks for having me again, Wade. You make me want to clear my throat. So.
Okay. I'm self-conscious enough. I got the Peter Brady voice cracking going on. And now, yeah. All right. Well, it's going to get worse as this show goes on. I don't know who I'm going to sound like by the end. Anyway, you can join the show. You can be a video caller or audio caller. We got Root Dog on hold. You can join him. Look for the link to be a video, or you can turn your camera off and be an audio-only caller if you wish. In my Smackdown report at PWTorch. So just click on my TV report. It's there at the top. You can also email the show, Wade Keller postshow at gmail.com, Wade Keller postshow at gmail.com. And you can also join in the live chat, and we'll be throwing those comments up on the screen. You can also do a super chat to almost guarantee that you'll be brought up right away, or somewhat close to right away, loose definition. But we also appreciate dropping a few dollars in the tip jar for what we do here. All right, let's get back to the conversation. I wanted to ask both of you. I'll start with Javier. What do you think of how Jacob Fatu has come across since his return? The crowds were chanting kind of for, it seemed like everybody, but mostly him during the match. How is his character any different than last time? And where do you see him landing in the road to WrestleMania and then afterwards?
I mean, I still don't like the stuff that he says. That, you know, but it's coming across less cartoonish. It feels a little bit more in the moment, so that's a positive. I do like the you know, him taking like ownership of who he is, I think, and not really being a cartoonish madman. You know, he's just like someone who knows how to fight. So I do like what they've done, that they moved him a little bit away from where, because he had gotten really cartoonish, and they've pulled him away and more. I think he's closer to where we were hoping for him to be, character wise, than where he was like a couple months ago. So I think that's positive. Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately his will be the biggest test from now to WrestleMania, because he's pretty much the most unknown factor. Because I think, you know, we've seen Drew, we know what Drew can do, and we've seen what Cody can do, and we'll, you know, so it's up to him to bring up that level of excitement, you know, so to, you know, at least make it feel, you know, that's a pick 'em on who's the real main event, whether it's going to be them or CM Punk and Roman Reigns. So I'm looking forward to it, and I think he has charisma. I think that he ultimately is up to the writers and the stuff that they write for him. So,
Rich, your thoughts? Same topic.
Yeah, I think he's shown up as more of a force of nature, and as Javier mentioned, there's sometimes where it's kind of stilted language. The all gas, no brakes at first was more natural, and now they're kind of cramming it in there as the let's get his phrase out. And so hopefully they can kind of calm it down a little bit. But I have liked the actions, physicality, and most of him in the ring, outside of the ring, brawling. That part I've loved.
Yeah, you had Cody, very pensive backstage at the top of the show. Go to Sammy earlier in the empty arena, just staring off in the distance. And then they cut to Jacob, and he's just yapping to the camera guy, just ba 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 talking. And he's you know, I mean, he's living the all gas, no brakes in the ring, and in terms of just his energy, even before and after matches, it fits, but you don't want it to become Tiffy time, where it just feels like a crutch, where it feels like it's the thing I say because I'm a WWE superstar. It should feel part of the natural flow. I don't think you should never say it, but I think, you know, limiting it would be good. In the chat, Sadler Version 3, who's now Black Magic this week, said, I've said Jacob is like those toys from the 90s where you pull the string on the back and he says the same 3 sentences. He's been better lately, though, and I do agree with that. Standard Deviation says the triple threat allows Wade to lay on the floor outside of the ring for half the match without the crowd noticing. Yes, indeed.
Wade
well
is
done.
sleeping. Hashtag Wade is sleeping.
Yes. And let's see. Mr. Freshman says, Mr. Freshman 92. I don't want to mix them up with the 93 and 91. I really like how they are telling the story that will eventually get Fatu in the title match at Mania. Boy, my voice is not going to last. But anyway, that is all I'm going to say for the moment. Let's bring Root Dog into the show to lead some of the discussion here.
Hello. Hey, Wade. Hey, Rich. Hey, Javier.
Hey, how are you, man?
I'm doing great. Wade, I want to thank you for championing through this week. I know it's been rough, and I appreciate all your content. And I wanted to say, go VIP if you can, because it's the only reoccurring payment that I look at that I don't get mad at. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm glad I paid that. So that's what I got to say.
I must say, for the folks not watching, I enjoy the Headbang Club shirt. That is quite a fun choice.
Yeah, I dug it out of the closet. I honestly forgot I had it, but I was like, oh, okay. But,
Well, Road Dog, good having you on the show. Thanks for the VIP plug.
right on.
You have a good weekend. Oh, wait, you want to add more?
See ya. Thanks. No. I was just giving you some love. That's all. But
Yep.
so it seems like toxic is the new it word in wrestling.
Uh-huh.
We have toxic males and then a toxic spider. I mean, what's with all this toxic talk? I don't know.
They might change Fatal Attraction to Toxic Attraction. Just keep it rolling, Yeah,
Right.
that was probably like overall this episode. I know we hadn't gotten to that part yet, but I thought it was outside of the main event and a couple of those other segments. I thought it was pretty disappointing, especially for 3 hours. And that segment where R-Truth said that Kit had a camel toe.
He had lost his manhood.
Yeah,
and then
I forgot about that.
Grabs
first
his
part.
crotch,
So
and then he says, "Yeah, I see a camel toe."
Is it anti-evolved views of masculinity, anti-trans, like what all are you trying to get out? What are you trying to say, Levesque? Like, do you hate the fact that folks can have an elevated view of what a quote unquote man means? Like, that was these segments are getting darker and darker by the week when they start talking about toxic masculinity, and all of the key babyface characters are making fun of him for it.
Well, Mr. Freshman says, "Call me juvenile, but I love that segment with Truth." LOL. Rich, I have been sounding the horn that I think the whole toxic masculinity thing is really lame, because they're trying to turn this sort of, I guess, effeminate, like less manly, frenetic, crazy guy who's just annoying everybody into the poster child for the toxic masculinity movement, which is a pushback on the bro, culture of, men should go back to telling the woman, to stay at home or whatever. Then all the nonsense that is sort of out there and flooding social media and podcasts and stuff. And they're trying to make it seem like being against it is being as ridiculous as Kit Wilson is. He's really entertaining doing it. I think the line about "you lost your manhood," that's a camel toe. As much as I want to read into this gimmick, I think that was just lame default juvenile humor to get Kit Wilson to, go shriek and go, how dare you? But it is a product of this gimmick. You're going to have to go there to juvenile stuff when you have this just, the message is not ambiguous. They want to make fun of people and demean people who are making fun of their nonsense. The whole masculinity, movement. I don't know. Rude Dog, what do you think?
Yeah, it seems a little behind the times and, more like a Vince McMahon type deal thing, and he's just going to get destroyed by Oba Femi next week. And so, I don't know. Where do you go from here with the guy?
Yeah. Well, a couple comments in the chat. Mr. Freshman 92 says, "Other than tonight, though, I absolutely hate this gimmick that Kit is portraying." Fugitive Mark says, "Kit Wilson is hilarious. Wade offended? ? Not so much offended. It's just, I think it's revealing of the snowflake insecurity of the bro culture, that they have to create a whole TV character to try to demean people, saying, you guys are kind of pathetic for this whole macho movement of a woman should know her place and men's role is XYZ, going back to the 1950s or other centuries. Javier, how are you feeling about it?
Well, I mentioned not last week, but when I was before that, when they first started this, that it felt like they're all over the place with the gimmick, because sometimes it feels like they're doing the whole when Danielson was doing the whole eco, crazy eco guy gimmick, where it's like the idea is that he's over the top, and some of the early stuff, I was like, okay, this feels like they're telling a story that that Kip is just he's coming from an okay place, but he's over the top because it's not. He's complaining about people who haven't done anything to him because we haven't seen them do anything to him on TV. So he's just like being a prick, going over the top on what he's doing just to basically the virtue signal. But then at the same time, then you have like jokes like the one today, which refutes that. So that's what I'm saying, that they haven't chosen the direction, or they're not mature enough to choose a direction. And I think that that's where you get like total mixed messages. So, as long as the gimmick is going, I'm just concentrating on like as juvenile as it was, that rhyme was funny. I was one of the people that laughed too.
Yeah.
But it was, I laughed because it was juvenile, not because it was insightful commentary, So yeah, I mean, I don't know, what they're going for. So because they haven't picked a lane, it's, I'd rather them either pick a lane and choose what you're gonna say and be more clear about it, or because this feels like they're trying to eat their cake and have it too. You're
scoring points with me there, Javier. Yes,
because I said the right order.
Yeah, you got it right. You can laugh at something while also seeing through the snowflake. The inspiration for it, which is there's thin-skinned bro culture guys who thought, hey, let's have a ridiculous guy like Kit Wilson acting annoying to make fun of people who speak out against our ridiculous stance on the man's role in the world compared to women, or how you prove you're a real man compared to other men who are less than, who aren't ex-jocks or going to the gym every day or whatever it is. I mean, just like let people be different. Don't define what defines a man, and that the people who are espousing that and it makes them feel better about themselves don't like being pushed back on. So thus is born Kit Wilson. Cy T says a toxic gimmick isn't offensive, it's just disappointing. Yeah, I'm not offended by it. And like fugitive.mark says, it's not that important, Wade. It's humor. Yeah, it's not important. It's not humor. I'm saying it's bad humor, and I'm calling it out for the inspiration that I believe sparked it. I believe it's snowflake males who don't like getting a taste of their own medicine, so they created a character to demean those who are critics of their ridiculousness. I'm not offended. I'm just calling it as I see it. It doesn't really hit the close level of I don't know, whatever the definition of offended is. But nice try, fugitive. Rude Dog, back to you.
Yeah, I think if you ask Triple H about this whole persona, he'd be like, "Hey, at least he has a spot on the show," type of deal, like But I think that's all he would say. But anyways,
yeah.
But he is facing Oba Femi next week, and even though that would be a ridiculous squash, I'm sure Oba Femi has been presented like it's been the best rollout presentation I remember on the main roster in a long time. Like they're getting it all right with him so far. And so, I mean, do you agree with me? Is this a great way to introduce a monster character?
Yeah, introducing new characters and then also reintroducing characters who've been away for a while. Like AEW's doing a great job with Will Ospreay right now. He's feeling grounded, more matured. It almost feels like he's a different place in life, more grateful. He's at that stage where every title match, every match, he's going to not take for granted because he stared the end of his career in the face and came through surgery, and it looks like he'll be back. They're telling that story really well. Oba Femi's a different kind of vignette, but it's like, little things every week right before the main event. And now a really good vignette on him with him talking. And then a good, he played his part in that segment well too. Rich, talk about Oba Femi tonight, and Rudok just broadly talking about, is this a way to really make, not everybody should be introduced with weeks and weeks of vignettes and frame that way. Then it would lose its meaning. Trick Williams is being introduced largely through crossing paths with other big names. Javon's getting introduced by having really spectacular athletic displays in the ring. So you can do it different ways. How is this matching up with what you think will get the most out of Oba? Rich.
Yeah, I like Oba. I am enjoying how they're transitioning him to the main roster, and even when he's interfering with Kip and messing around with Kip, the Kit rather, he's saying things like, "I'm an Oba feminist," so he's still leaning into the. And if anyone's ever seen South Park, to me, Kit Wilson is a horrible version of the PC principal, and it's got none of the humor that shows how you can turn a person or a caricature like that on its head for the purposes of explaining, okay, you got to back up a little bit. And even Trey Parker and Matt Stone don't do it nearly as well with him because they just want the laughs of the same crowd. They want that, hey, look at how dumb these lefties look, or look how dumb this guy is, how dare he sees an evolved form of manhood outside of punching your way through things. But with Oba Femi, he's another guy, like the fans are doing the chants with him. This is something that if you ever saw Black Panther, very evocative of M'Baku and like kind of like the hoots that he would get prior to coming out for battles. And so him coming out and kind of doing the affected walk has gotten over him. The only thing he hasn't done yet, which I think they want to save, and I think that would be really smart, is much like in NXT, when he gets a chance to quote unquote make fun of Americans with his American accent, which is his actual voice. That's when it gets fun, because now you're like, oh wait, that's what that guy sounds like outside of being the ruler. And so I'm looking forward to that. And I think Javon's having the Los Americanos feud to kind of get him up to speed and get him on the highway, so to speak. Oba Femi is getting set up as this powerful figure, and I think that's working for him. And they're showing they can have multiple ways to onboard wrestlers without it all seeming, I'm on this group, like they did with that first crop of NXT wrestlers, where they just fired all the ladies into these weird stables that made no sense given their relationships on the NXT roster.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, Rich, because I mentioned the M'Baku thing last week. I saw it too. I'm like, man,
it was in my head when I was driving. I think that's what it was. Javier.
I'm like, if they got to recast him, you got Oba Femi right there. Yeah, I mean, I was really high on. I mean, he made me forget about Trick Williams. I Trick Williams. Well, there's something there. But Oba Femi just like radiates like a charisma, and I'm more frustrated we're still getting vignettes because I want to see him do something meaningful in the ring already, because I'm excited to see what he can do. But he got a moment with Nick Aldis, and and I like the moment he had with him and Kip. So
sounds good. Yeah, go ahead, Rude Duck.
Well, so you mentioned Trick Williams. I mean, in Wade's report, he said you can't keep Trick heel with his music, but they're not going to get rid of that music. I mean, they kept Seth Rollins' music when he was a heel. They didn't care. They just want the interaction. So I don't think that music's going away anytime soon. But I think even if you got rid of that music, people would still be yelling, "Whoop that Trick."
Yeah, it could be too late to stop that. Yeah.
I mean, he didn't even really act too heelish today. So, I mean, do you think they're just turning the page and he's just going to be a babyface without turning?
So, yeah, if they want him to be a heel, I mean, they're not doing a good job. I mean, the things he's saying are witty, and the music is catchy. He's drawing comparisons between him and Booker T, who's a beloved figure. Rich, what are they doing?
They're setting him up to be yet another of your favorite type of wrestler. It's the non-home team rules, and they just want
Rich is efforting
as the
I don't
guy.
See him.
Wait.
I can see and hear you, Rich.
Oh, okay. I was like, where did I go? Is this like Earth Angel or what happened in the middle of the Under the Sea dance in Back to the Future? I see him as, they just want the coolness. That's all all they want. They want the whoop that Trick. They want the Booker T. I mean, that started when he was in NXT and it was clear, but it's even more pronounced with the outfits he wears now, like the white and the usage of the axe kick and the Trick knee, and he just looks like this generation's Booker T in the best possible way. It's not an insult, but the lemon pepper steppers, like there's too many catchphrases that people enjoy. And if he were a heel, you need to, much like Kit, have a catchphrase or something that's going to frustrate people or lead to comeuppances, like the Miz saying he's awesome, or his constant taking credit for the U.S. title with what's going on with Carmelo Hayes. Right now, it's just Trick is awesome, and as a babyface, you have to kind of survive that. And so Rey Fenix did that by having a really good wrestling match with Trick, probably his best on the main roster. But outside of that, it was really Trick's show.
And I mean, WWE just, they've gone through the whole John Cena era where it's like, the only thing that matters is a reaction. And so I don't know if they went into this realizing this was going to happen. I hope so. But it is counterproductive for baby faces who face him that, it's going to be, at least on the trajectory he's on now, it's going to be hard for him to get booed. I mean, I guess you can have this helter-skelter Jekyll and Hyde, like crowd boos him when he's wrestling, but cheers him, chants for him on his way to the ring and after the match ends. I don't think that's something WWE should dial in as a success story when it comes to how they tell their stories. But sometimes that's the reality that they're dealing with based on the fact that he is so cool. A couple chat room comments here, and then we'll bring Rude Dog back. Trick looks like a star every week when he comes out. People react to stars. I mean, they pay to see stars. They react to stars. But ideally, you frame those stars in a way where fans are rooting for them to win or lose. And, that's mucked up a little bit right now. Pile Driver Pete says a crowd eats Trick up. He's so charismatic. Absolutely. Goodfellas says Trick probably got the best reaction tonight. Chants are with passion, it seems. And I think it's different than the Seth song. People just like singing Seth's song. And yes, he's, been around so many big main events. He's, just a constant in WWE when he's not out injured. I mean, he's just, he's like a top tier guy and going back to the Shield days and all that. So he's seen as a star, but I don't think they're as passionate about him as they just enjoy singing the song and that communal experience that is part of your, $20,000 ticket price these days to go to a WWE show. But with Trick, I think there's more to it. I think they like the chant, but I think they like him. And I think they like him more than people like Seth, for instance. I think this is a headwind. And Todd Martin's been talking about that on the Fix VIP podcast. Like, he just thinks it's crazy to try to force Trick as a heel. Derek says there's no guarantee they won't get rid of Trick, whoop that Trick. They got rid of Shinsuke's music for a good while and then brought it back. They could, Trick could interrupt the chants and insult the fans. They could change the music so it doesn't have that kind of rhythm to it. And, they could fight it. I mean, if they're going to keep him heel for a while, I mean, honestly, I'd fight for fighting. I would advocate for fighting it. And then it'll be just this glorious moment when it comes back, when he's a babyface, and it'll feel like a pressure release that they get to do something that they love. Goodfella says Trick looks Hollywood. He looks like a star. Kavanti Smalls says Trick commands an audience. He may not produce 5-star matches, but neither does Cody, Breaker, or Punk. I still say Trick has a potential to be a modern day 1998 Rock with a splash of Booker T. Javier, what do you think of all those comments, including the last one? A little bit of Rock, a little bit of Booker.
Yeah, I think closer to Booker right now, from what I've seen. But, he just started, so who knows? And that's not an insult. I am a Booker T fan when he's not doing commentary. But yeah, I mean, overall, like I was really high when he first came out, and yeah, I mean, because I have no experience with NXT. I haven't seen NXT since the red and gold, the black and gold era. So a lot of these wrestlers are new to me, which is why like Tiffany didn't really work for me because they didn't really do anything to really get me to know her. The package they did today for Oba Femi finally explained a lot of like what his character is, so I finally understand who he is, other than the cool look and the cool entrance. With Trick, he's done enough work to in the promos that he's cut. And the thing is that he hasn't really crossed a line where he's a bad guy. He is arrogant and he has some heelish qualities, but they haven't gone to the point where he's like set anybody's house on fire or anything. So I think that, you could have like, for example, the match he had today, which I thought was, a strong match, could lead to, he had this tough fight. and he got out of it, and he was dominant during the match, but at the end they sold it that he almost got got. And then they could say, hey, he's a tough fighter, and that could that could make it stronger for you to attach with the character if you see him change from someone who's arrogant to someone, hey, he's got something, we want to root for him. So I think that's kind of where they are. They're keeping him kind of like gray-ish, just to so they have room to play when they finally decide what direction they're gonna go with his character when he gets involved with an actual meaty storyline.
Couple chat comments here. Mr. Freshman 92 says, I didn't watch him on NXT either. I never saw a trick match before the main roster, but already I knew that he was a star. The it factor that you just can't teach. We'll put there. Derek says, Derek Mitchell, I absolutely love Shinsuke's music and wasn't a fan of his remix. Maybe that's the point. I don't know if you're backing up that or not, but probably so. But Goodfella says, I love Booker on commentary. He's fun. I don't get the pushback. Okay. Goodfella, you can like Booker T if you want. We're not going to tell you can't enjoy him. He has energy. He's gregarious. But you don't get the pushback? Like, it's okay to say the obvious negative traits for me don't count as much as how fun he is, and I get a kick out of him. But you have to understand the pushback. I mean, if you're paying attention, he's just constantly undercutting what's happening. He utters catchphrases and nonsense. I don't know. Rich, are you on Goodfellas' side?
It's funny because as I was thinking about Goodfellas' side, I don't know, did Goodfella watch Trick in NXT with Booker T? Because for the folks that are watching Trick Williams now on the main roster without the Booker T add-ons, you don't have earworms in your brain like I do, where every time you hear whoop that trick, instead of it, I'm trying to think of the example. Instead of hearing whoop that trick like you do now in the crowd chanting, or instead of you hearing what's another chant where the fans participate a little bit more? Do either of you guys have one that jumps to the top of the mind readily? Like Joe Hendry or something like that. Yeah. When I hear whoop that hit trick, Booker T is in my brain saying, yeah, and all the other little onomatopoeias he would throw out in between it just because he couldn't let the moment sit. And so for that, I cannot agree with our friend who just put that comment up, because no, I enjoy a lot of Booker T's commentary, especially when he says things that are so off the cuff they undermine the storyline he's supposed to be covering. But the whoop that trick, the Trick Williams kind of like uncleization, I can't.
Yeah, well, Standard Deviation says Booker T's my vote for worst commentator of all time. Ha. I don't know why you have to add ha. You don't have to rub it in. He's awful. It's okay. You don't have to laugh in his face. I like Booker. I've interviewed him multiple times. It was a fantastic interview. Really liked his book. Think he's a great guy. Think he's one of the most in a job he is almost. I can't think of anyone. Well, no, I can think of someone who's in a job they're less fit for. Scratch that. Let's see. Okay. Father of Repeat says, I stand with Booker's commentary. Total guilty pleasure when he sings Joe Henry's music. At least you admit it's a guilty pleasure. This is the thing. You can enjoy him, but you cannot seriously say he's good for the product. Like, if I'm a wrestler, I do not. I mean, almost every wrestler, I just like, he's not helping tell our stories. He's drawing attention to himself with loud gibberish and catchphrases and guttural utterances and whatever. It's just, he's a one just headache-inducing distraction for me. In part because I think the color commentator should be there to forward and reinforce the stories that everyone works hard to tell in the ring and behind the scenes when they book. And I don't think he does that.
He falls in the same bucket as like Matt Stryker for me, which is somebody that I could listen. I'm like, oh, he's kind of cool because he does this and kind of does that. But by the end of the show, I'm like, I'm done. I'm done. I'm tired of you. I could take him for like half a show, but that's about it. I can take him for about 3 to 8 minutes, and then I'm like, Mr. Freshman says, LOL, Booker's entertaining, but he adds nothing to the product. So there is that. Swole says, a nice quick hit, Wade. Standard Deviation says, I mean it in a lighthearted way. So there we are. Okay, couple notes, and then I'll bring Rude Dog back in.
on we'll circle back to a couple comments on Oba Femi if I can. Oh no, on Trick. Let's do this. Sean Plichta, welcome Sean, says Trick should be a face because of his personality and music, but his heel stuff has been okay. He's getting introduced pretty well overall. I mean, the number one job is to create a star that people want to pay to see. But I think more effort should be put towards having that star drop into a situation where people are emotionally invested in rooting for or against him. And they see the story of WWE being wrestlers winning titles or winning matches to try to win titles and not a communal experience to chant along to. I think that should be part of the product, but it shouldn't be a substitute for the core through line of the product. And when fans start chanting along and singing along to heels with joy and fun, you're taking them into a zone that I think makes it a lot harder to sell tickets. And I think that's been a product of Triple H last year plus that he's leaned into. I've spoken out against it consistently, and I'm going to connect this. And now they're having trouble selling tickets. So I'm going to say it's because of that, not because the prices are really high or other reasons. But I think the communal experience gets people in the building at a certain price point a certain number of times every few years. I think caring about the outcome of matches and the journey wrestlers are on and caring about titles and rooting for someone and rooting against someone is a peak fan experience that will bring people back more often, and they'd be willing to pay more for it. And then you find a way to weave into that core fundamental structure chance in the communal experience, but that should be supplemental and it should be stopped. They should quash it if it gets in the way of what I think is the most important aspect and framework of telling pro wrestling stories week to week. Standard Deviation says Trick looks like a star. I'm looking at him and wondering if he's this generation's Rock. Derek Mitchell says they're aura farming Trick Williams. So there we have it. Let's anything you want to add, Rich, to that before I bring Drew down again?
That's a good discussion and hits all the points.
Cool. Javier, anything? Cool. All right, Rude Talk, welcome back.
So last thing on Trick Williams, like you bringing up the Booker T comparisons. And this is the first time I remember him really playing that up. Like, I don't recall him ever having a mic and doing the Booker T stuff that he says, okay, what? Like, maybe he's done it before on the main roster, but I don't recall that. And he also did the Booker T, like, look at your hand thing. So he's really playing the Booker T comparison up.
Wade Barrett brought up Booker T when he did that too. So they're not running from it. They're drawing attention to it.
Right. So anyways, but
yeah.
All right. So next.
Real quick, because Jarrell added something. He goes, Booker T started the whoop that trick, and then the crowd started doing it. He got over Stephanie's Devil's Kiss, and he's gotten over a few other things.
Yep.
I'm not sure the Devil's Kiss as presented is a great thing to have gotten over to the degree it is. Rich, jump on in with that.
Yeah, I mean, I've said that for a while, even when we would do some of the pay-per-view roundtables where Booker T's fetishization of it and getting folks to kind of go, "Ooh, hubba, 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 she's got her legs between her legs." Like that was the thing that got it. But now when people see it, they get excited. Same thing with Whoop That Trick. The fact, like Rude Dog astutely pointed out, this is the first time he's added the Booker T soundtrack to his own entrance. And so I guess that's what at some point someone said, we need that as something added to the Trick package. But I think it's a hat on a hat. He's already super cool. He already has the personality and he has the persona that's adjacent to. You don't need him to be a carbon copy of Booker T.
There's so many promoters, bookers, wrestlers and fans who mistake a reaction in the crowd as the ultimate sign of success. A crowd pop, this is awesome chant, or react communal sing along. Too many people have seen that as that means we succeeded. That means we made it. And there's a fight behind the scenes with people philosophically different than that, and I communicate with them. And they feel they're in a bit of a losing battle sometimes across the board in a lot of companies. That wrestlers should be realizing, a crowd pop isn't the be all end all. It's knowing your role on a team when you're part of a larger story being told. And that story is, wrestlers fans are rooting for or against, chasing after titles or settling feuds. It's once it becomes a communal experience, that's a headwind to, I think it has a a smaller audience, and you don't get the Sami Zayn, Roman Reigns, Montreal moments, the Cody Rhodes triumphing in the end moment, and you train your fans to react to things that are more superficial and ephemeral than invest in their emotions deeply in an outcome. I mean, it's the difference between an action scene in a vacuous scripted action movie and a movie that is a suspense movie that has some special effects or stunts or action, but you're deeply invested in the characters and the outcome because there's something at the end that matters, not just a car blowing up. Rudak, back to you.
Yeah, I just have this bad feeling that they might bring Booker T to SmackDown just to hype up Trick Williams and make it a 3-man booth, but hopefully that doesn't happen. And I'm sorry for putting that in the universe.
You said what I was going to say. Shame on you.
Sorry. My apologies.
You saved me saying it.
All right. Yeah. So next subject. So Jade Cargill, she had a 10-minute match today. It was probably the longest match that she's had, but the match felt like 30 minutes. Like, I met Jade before. She's a super nice lady, but she doesn't seem to be improving much at all in the ring, and she's the world champion. Like, how much longer can this go on?
Javier, what do you think?
I just thought the match was fine, and it probably the best match she's had in WWE. So I think you could cover a lot for someone who doesn't have, give you 4 or 5-star matches. I thought that Jordynne Grace did very well in what she did, because they put Cargill in a position where Grace is strong enough to force her and move her around the ring. So I think I think because of the matchup that they had, I actually rather enjoyed this match, because it just felt like two big people going against each other, strength for strength, which I think worked in her favor. So I actually enjoyed this match. So
before I go to Rich, we got 2 competing comments in the chat. Sean Plitch just says, I thought the match was pretty good. Nothing special, but it was physical, which I liked. Padre Repeat said, Rudog's correct. I'm just a fan, but I've seen no improvement. Real Legend adds, I felt this has been one of Jade's better matches. Goodfella says, I loved this Jordynne Jade match. Jordynne carried it with her power. Very impressive. Derek just added, I thought Jade and Jordynne's match was fine. It doesn't need to be Misawa Kawada. Sean then full circle says Jordynne did a better job than she did in the few months in NXT. Good match, in my opinion. Rich, your thoughts? Yeah, sure, Javier.
My actual note for this match was the fact that this put Grace on the map, I think, with the fans, because I think the fans have been very cold on her. So and the match started really cold. It started with a chant for Dom, which I thought when it had come out, I'm like, man, that you have a championship match. Jade versus Grace, which is first time we're really seeing Grace tested. I'm like, I felt it was really unfair how they booked the match for Jade and Grace.
Yep.
But Grace, and it's Grace, felt like the one that did the most there. But the two of them got the audience back on there, and I think this actually made people realize that Grace is somebody we should pay attention to. And that was interesting because, when I'm watching, Grace never felt lost in the ring. She felt like she was in command. So I thought this was a good, and I left wanting to see more between the two of them, because I think that Jordynne Grace could bring out the best out of Jade. And if we're going to see any real furthering, I think that putting her with Grace would be a good idea.
Rich.
I thought it was a fine match. I think Jade, to answer the original question, she needs more reps, just like anyone else, especially a younger wrestler. When you look at the number of matches she's had over the course of her career relative to her time in AEW to now, she's gotten more matches in WWE, but that still is not a lot of matches. And so I think the more they can give her that time, the more they can get her in with other wrestlers that kind of have a higher quality, I think the better she'll be and the better she'll become. I don't feel like it's now or never with her. Rather, I think it's a good opportunity with her as champion to get her as many qualified challengers as possible. And having someone like Jordynne is hopefully the start of having some more of those folks out there that she can work well with, because I thought that was a pretty good chemistry considering they had not done much together outside of the odd. I think they might have done a spot in a battle royal when she was in AEW.
Javier, are you hearing that feedback with Rich? Yeah, Rich, you muted and unmuted, and it set off a chain reaction of some static. I don't know if you can unplug and plug something in or reset. Yeah, we don't want to have that continue if possible. All right, more comments in the chat while Rich and Javier were talking. Mr. Freshman says, yes, best showing of Grace to date. She should be proud of that match. Pile Driver Pete says, Grace did a lot for the match, in my opinion. Goodfellas said, I hope so, Javier. I enjoy her graps in terms of this being a significant moment for her. Real Legend says, Jordan hitting Jade with a jackhammer was nice. Mr. Freshman, I really didn't need Judgment Day at ringside, and that did at least initially take away from the gravitas of the match. She's like, okay, the match was built up, but really it's going to be about what Liv and Dominic or Keller are doing at ringside. And to a degree it was, and it's an astute to point out, to have all the buildup that they had for this match and this powerhouse Jordan Grace with a nice vignette before the match that Sean Plichta pointed out. The vignette on Jordan before the match was good too. To have all this build, and it's Jade, it's going to be one of her longest, if not longest, match to date. And then to have the crowd get sidetracked, and that's why I'm against the communal experience aspect being, in charming, likable heels, and not trying to steer people more against it and leaning into the cute stuff. It can undercut something that I think is more important, which is a title match on TV you've built up for weeks. So this was an example of that. Goodfellas says, even Jordan moving Jade's hand into position before she slammed her little things. Interesting. Derek said, did we need Liv and Dom at ringside? Like, this was from Saturday night's main event. Mr. Freshman, does anyone want to see Jade and Liv at Mania? Come on. Sean Plichta says, Jade has star power and bravado, and I think she's slowly getting better. Let's, Rich, first of all, any thoughts on those comments? We'll also check your mic here.
Yeah.
You're good.
I don't know what happened. Maybe it's just static built up or something. For me, I think Jade and, as I said before, Jade and Jordan, they seem to have a pretty good chemistry. I'm not one to kind of beat up on someone if they're not getting a billion-star matches, but I also think there needs to be a level of professionalism so that you have believable matches and it doesn't look like you're hurting, injuring yourself or opponents. I think right now Jade's trying to find that watermark, and for me, that's what I'm looking for. I always try to say, for me, a lot of times the best thing about pro wrestling isn't necessarily the wrestling, it's the moments and setting people up to have the bouillabaisse, to have the absolute quality promos, and also entice you to watch them wrestle. And I think Jade still has that star factor, and they just have to refine the wrestling. And if they keep sticking her with quality opponents, she can only help but get better. I mean, look at what we've seen now with this renaissance between Lash Legend and Nia Jax in terms of what they're doing as power wrestlers. I think they're both informing each other. And unlike when Nia was on the main roster by herself, Lash now has a person that she can use as a reference point to do what not to do in terms of her moveset with smaller wrestlers on the roster.
It's like pizza. There's a certain threshold, and if you're hungry, you're going to enjoy it. And there's much better pizza that you might get in a different city or at a nice restaurant or whatever. But there's a lot of pizza that's not great that still hits the spot. And then there's a threshold under it where you're like, I can't eat this. And this is disappointing. I've had some delivery pizza where like the crust wasn't cooked. It was raw. It was crispy on the bottom, but raw in the middle, Papa John's. And I couldn't eat it. I had to like rebake it. So that's what WWE is. They do not need every pizza to be the best. They want to satisfy you with a certain threshold being met. And the question with Jade has been to tell that story in the ring, to get the satisfaction of the cheese and the pepperoni and the peppers that pro wrestling is when you get invested in it. I'm stretching this metaphor way too far. Is she at a point where you're not distracted by a negative so you can enjoy the story being told? And I think that's a work in progress. But I think tonight I would vote was a step. I would put it in the category of a step in the right direction. And I want to give Jordan Grace some credit. That's my take on it. Listening to everybody here, that's kind of how I felt watching it. Different kind of match. But I'm with you, Rich. You know that it's like WWE did not make the money that they're making and sell out stadiums because they averaged star ratings of wrestlers on the indie and international scene and hired them all and then gave them 20 minutes to go and do a bunch of high spots and kickouts. They're where they are because they understand the biggest audience out there. And frankly, a peak experience, even for fans who value work rate. And I have no problem with it. I'm just saying from a business perspective, they understand you don't want to disqualify a bunch of people who can make money telling stories in the ring because they're not in the top 10% or 20% of workers in the world at the time. There's other things that matter. And Jade has that. That's why she keeps getting these chances. Tiffany, we'll get to her in a bit, has something that's starting to get below the threshold for me in terms of whether she deserves her TV time. But the temptation to put Dom out there to tell the wine joke on the eve of Valentine's Day, joke was funny. It's kind of like Kit Wilson. It's funny, but is it good for the product, or is there a subtext? In the Kit Wilson thing, there's a subtext. In the Dom thing, it's just like, wouldn't it be funny if we did this? And someone's got to go, it would, but is it undercutting something more important? And if we're trying to get Dom booed, depending on where they're going with him and how fast, should we edit out some of these funny moments? Yeah. So, all right, let's bring, I'll throw a couple comments on here. First, the pizza thing. The crust is a little closer to being cooked than it was last delivery. There we go. Thank you, Standard Deviation. Darrell says that wasn't Jade's longest match, and she's getting better. I hate and feel some type of way when that's all certain type of people want to focus on. She's doing the role they want from her. Everybody's, it's a broad, too broad a statement, but everybody's rooting for Jade to get better because there are these other things where you're like, she's somebody I want to see in an arena. There's a presence, there's a charisma, she stands out, but she's got to work hard to get better. And you hope there's a level that you can reach where you're not just kind of like the parent at the spelling bee watching their kid spell a word in the finals. Like, that's how people watch Jade's match. It's like, no, oh, good, okay, okay, good, okay, we made it through that. Okay, here's the next word. Okay, yep, she made. Okay, good, she made it. Like, that's how people watch Jade's matches sometimes, based on her history. Derek says,
and I would also say too, before we jump to the next one.
Sure.
To Darrell's point, there are also some people using that analogy that are kind of leaning forward, saying, "I bet she can't spell this." And so that's probably where his frustration lies, where folks are intentionally waiting for it's like, well, she won't be able to wrestle this on. She'll screw this match up. Oh, wait, it's decent.
And then they won't acknowledge. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Derek Mitchell says, Jade's like a draft pick and not everyone's going to be LeBron or Cooper Flagg. Give her some time before she is called a bust. She's had a lot of time. She's had a lot of time, but she hasn't a lot of ring work. You only get so much out of working at the PC when you're not in front of a crowd and you have a net. It's just different. But tonight was a step in the right direction. I think we can probably largely agree on that. All right. Rude Dog, bringing you back in here. Anything else you want to bring up?
Well, yeah, back on that topic. I'm nothing but rooting for Jade. It's just like, yeah, is she worthy of a roster spot on WWE? Yes. But to be champion these day and age, I feel like you got to bring it a little more. And tonight, I felt bad for Jordynne Grace because, like, when she came out, like, there was no reaction. But she held that match, and I think she, like, I think that was a stepping stone for her more than Jade. So
there's one, is it a truism in wrestling that people who are in charge of booking, who are really into going to the gym and lifting weights and adding muscle, really, really, really overrate their customers' and viewers' interest in that as a character trait in people they pay to see. Jordynne Grace, the vignette, that was really good, but like, don't think your audience is sitting at home going, I'm going to cheer for her because she spends hours and hours in the gym every day and she's massively muscular. I think that can be a trait that is self-evident, but you don't want to lean into that as like, that's what defines her personality. And I think there's got to be more there. Like, when you look at why is the crowd not reacting to her, it's because I don't think people want to cheer people who are gym rats. There's nothing against them. It's just, that's not enough. That doesn't define someone enough to get you to cheer them. But there's more there. And I think this was actually a really good week for her. And I think the build has been good. So there's something to build on. But yeah, when the bell rang and then it's Liv and Dom and it becomes more of a, haha comedy thing, you take away some of the gravitas that I think the match could have had otherwise. I think they could have given it a chance to survive on its own, but they wanted to pull the Dom wine bottle out with Dom's picture on it so Wade Barrett and Tessador could debate the wine. And I'm all for Dom being on TV every week. But yeah, I think it actually had it got in the way of something that could have stood on its own. Root Dog, anything else?
I almost feel like they brought out the Judgment Day because they were afraid the match wasn't going to be any good. So they're like, well, if this match stinks, then we can focus on the Judgment Day. But the match was fine. But all right, one last thing.
The other reason they might have brought him out also is to purposely make the match feel less important, so you remember it less in case they want to ever go back to it. So it doesn't stick in the mind because it's like, okay, well, because this is not they're basically pointing out this is not an important match. We're not taking this match seriously. Neither should you. I think is also part of that too.
Yeah.
Agree.
Yep.
All right. Well, sorry for making you talk so much, Wade, but hey, it's NBA All-Star Weekend, and I feel like I'm on with the PWTorch All-Stars. So thank you.
Well done, Rudok. Thank you. Have a great
night,
Have a great every weekend, day, night. I cut him off too soon. By the way, we are planning to have a live post show after AW Grand Slam tomorrow. I might host, depends on how my voice is and how I'm feeling. But we're that is 90%. That will be live after that show around 10:30 Eastern. It's pay-per-view quality lineup. 2.5 hours. As Rich and I said, it might be some people's favorite AW show ever because it has all the positives of AW minus an hour and a half. And that could really work in its favor. It's a nice lineup. Kavanti Smile says about Jade, she has the hardest part of her act down, the it factor. She could use weekly matches to build reps. Too bad TKO eliminated 90% of domestic house shows. Yeah. I mean, there's so many things that corporations do in pursuit of short-term profit and stock price and dividends and whatever that is counterproductive to long-term health. I rip on Target all the time now. Like the walk in we just walk in and it just was this nice store. And you could look around and imagine this. And now you walk in and you're just bombarded with loose shopping carts in a dollar store, a bunch of shelves with like cheap plastic products on it that you can't even weave your way through because the CEO thinks that's going to make him, a little extra on the profit sheet in the next quarter. And it just ruins the whole brand of Target, which is it's a pleasant experience where there's some breathing room in the store. That's not, and the shelves aren't stocked and they're not front faced and all that. And they think just forcing employees to smile at people when they're within 5 feet of them is going to solve all the problems. It's like sometimes corner cutting for short-term bean counters hurts the brand. There, I got my Target rant in. A beloved company headquartered in Minneapolis, and Minnesotans are very disappointed in them these days, even prior to bending at the knee. So let's get to Tiffany Stratton for a minute here. I didn't think this was a good week for her. I don't know when she's had a great week as a character. Chelsea, though, said tacky time from Chelsea was a nice touch. Sean Plichta says, Tiffany's driving me crazy. There's something there, but they're just leaning into the stupid Tiffy time catchphrase. But then Darrell counters and said, Wade is the only person who seems to bring up Tiffy's problem being so one note with the Tiffy time, and it built onto whatever this character is supposed to have evolved to. I would think I'm probably not the only person who's noticing that Tiffy time is one note, and that her character is an obnoxious, grating heel who is getting by on showing cleavage and being blonde and young. And I found her rather insufferable tonight in her mic work and her self-satisfaction at what she thinks is wit. Rich, I'll throw to you first. What are you thinking of Tiffany these days?
Yeah, there was a portion early at the beginning of the episode where she was dancing to her music.
Yes.
And kind of like popping, and it was just very.
I almost wrote, it reminded me of Donald Trump's like arm thing.
Yes, with the arm. Yeah, I was like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, don't even go adjacent to that. You know, it was really weird. And so that part, and they're giving her, just like we just talked about Jade, open SmackDown. You're given that opportunity to see if you could carry it. If anything, Lash and Jax saved that segment by being quicker on the trigger, so to speak, with the commentary she was saying. Because even when they countered with their witty repartee, this is scripted, and she still was kind of floundering for answers when they threw them back at her. And that was kind of the part that was a little bit, as much as the silly dance threw me off, but her not being ready for stuff. These are like 5-mile-an-hour underhand softballs, and she's striking out.
Yeah. And the way she delivers the lines just expose how heavily scripted she is. And then there's that overly delighted with herself like reaction to the scripted lines that aren't as funny as her character finds them. And then there's just the vocal tonality of her voice that I think demands a vocal coach. I mean, not everybody's taste, and who am I to talk this week, but not everybody's voice is taste and voice is the same, but man, there's got to be a better way to speak than whatever she's doing with her vocal cords. And there are vocal coaches for that. Just like there's gym coaches teach you how to lift weights properly. Wrestlers teach you how to sell properly. I mean, I don't know. Maybe she can't and she's tried. And then if so, I'd feel bad. But I mean, not everybody should be talking on national television. Javier, how you feeling?
My first note.
Yeah.
Tiffany hits notes that sound like 100 cats rising, popping their claws, and running them against a chalkboard.
There you go. Yep.
That was my first note.
Yep.
That's just on the speaking part.
But have you seen her
Other than
boobs?
that, I think she is amazing as a heel. Because
yes, that's the thing.
No, I am serious.
Yep.
When the backstage skit, I'm like, she's hitting these diva notes, like from the diva, when you had like the bad divas in that era, and she's hitting those notes well, not like like it's natural. She comes across as like an evil Barbie, and I'm like, why is she not a heel? Why did she not go through that phase? It is the dumbest thing ever. I mentioned this before. When she first in NXT, what looks like what happened was that she was that character. People liked it because it was silly, and it turned her into babyface. And then they brought her in, assuming that the same thing they did with Gargano and Ciampa when they brought him in. That they brought him in with them expecting that people would, that the story, the character they were would completely be brought over. And they didn't do anything with her. And it's been annoying because there's something there. She's, she has a charisma. She's athletic, but it's frustrating. It's just frustrating.
Yeah. A lot of comments in the chat on this. Kavanti Small says Tiffany was speed talking through her lines. That's another thing. I mean, there's just so many things that are wrong with her delivery. Derek Mitchell says, I'd rather listen to Vicky Guerrero than Tiffany Stratton speak. She's that insufferable. Standard deviation. Rich is going to run and be the baby, is going to defend her, at least against this onslaught. Maybe. We'll see. Standard deviation says, I think they overestimated Tiffany's appeal based on one moment in Perth, and since then she hasn't lived up to her push. Real Legend says, Tiffany's best character was her first few months in the main roster, which culminated in everyone cheering her in Australia at Elimination Chamber. Tiffany is a good performer, says Derek Mitchell, in the ring. But out of the ring, her outer ring persona is insufferable. She has that look that appeals to a certain demographic, but she reminds me of WWE's version of Sydney Sweeney. Let's see. Powder Repeat says she's a heel. Her character is trying to be a face. Mr. Freshman says Tiffany's voice is ugh. I can't stand it when she talks. Powder Repeat says they need to turn her ASAP. Sean says, yeah, heel would work way better at this point. And Standard Deviation says, personally, I view Jade ahead of Tiffy as a main eventer. And I do want to say, I don't think she's like great in the ring. I think she's a really gifted athlete. But, I think there's some faults in the realism of her match. It does feel a little more like acrobats and going through the motions. I just don't think there's an instinct that she has for the business, to be honest, both in the ring and on the mic. And I don't see progress there. But I'm not for cutting her. I think turn her heel and teach her how to work as a heel on the mic and in the ring, because I think people would really like to cheer wrestlers they like who are beating her up. Rich, give us your take on Tiffany.
I think if you were to put on The Pit or The Tale of Dunk and Egg or something else on HBO, and the lead dramatic character sounded like Mickey Mouse, you would wonder what happened if you had a stroke. Mm-hmm. In the case of Tiffany Stratton, she has a voice, and you mentioned the voice coach. I think she already had a voice coach, or this is their wrestling version of a voice coach, because in an effort to kind of hide her natural Minnesotan accent, they've given her this high affect, and that only works as a heel. And so, like I said, if you're Mickey Mouse, you can do the hi ho, it's Mickey. Like that stuff works when you're a bubbly baby face that's doing silly things. When you're someone that's supposed to be a super athlete, and the only person I can think of, and that was later in his career, that had a body of work that belied their voice, was Troy Polamalu, where you saw that guy as a safety, like destroying people, and then you'd hear him, and it was like Michael Jackson had been reincarnated. And so I think for her, yes, get a voice coach or do what Jericho did and go to acting class and figure out ways to find a new voice. But I think the more important thing is align her to her personality, because the moveset, the prettiest moonsault ever, all that stuff, she could be. And I guess my closest person for this would be Rob Van Dam. At times incomplete in terms of a character, but whether he was a face or a heel, you understood where Rob was coming from, and you knew the athleticism were going to take over if there were shortcomings with his promo. In the case of Tiffy, the athleticism should show up in the ring, but you got to cut off all the extracurriculars, because right now they are not helping her, and they're making her seem more infantilized while also giving her this super, like, she looks like a bad waitress at a Hooters right now by the way they're setting her up, instead of an athlete that needs to be respected and feared or loved, or both.
And I think there's some straight males who have spent a lot of time in certain establishments that think every man in the audience is not going to give her slack on all those things you just talked about, and we all talked about in the chat, talked about, because look at her. And, you know, it's a detriment. But yeah, you'd like to think she could have found ways to improve. Sean Plichta says Tiffany should have found ways to improve. Oh, she was gone. And this wasn't it. Real Legend says Tiffany also seems rusty since she's been off TV for 3 months. Tiffany is tough in the ring, says Goodfella, but she has showed that.
Yeah. So he was saying, like, to counter, we were saying she hasn't shown toughness in the ring. I honestly think, and Wade and I talked about this earlier on everything, they just hired on the Performance Center Jazz. If you remember Jazz as a wrestler, Miss Jackie, you think of Ivory, those were women who still had a fear factor to their wrestling style and their personalities. And I think she needs to talk to one of them, because we don't need it to go back to the Bellas era. We don't need it to go back to Braun Panties era. We need her to be a super athlete in this generation, because similar to someone like a Javon Evans, who's a contemporary age-wise, or someone of that ilk, she should be able to attract folks from her generation to watch wrestling. And how many women in that age group are gonna want to see a woman doing that? And I'm not, so I would like to hear from someone that could tell me that, because it doesn't seem like she's matching what a 50-something-year-old dude would think this woman should be doing, and I don't think that helps. So having more female coaches help her, I think, would help.
Yeah, and then she has to be a good student. She has to be open to understanding the contract and crowds chanting Tiffy time at her and being in main events. And as she bragged in a heelish way, she had a rookie year that most people, almost everybody, would be jealous of. I mean, there's just a complete immaturity to her character, and there should be a massive humility behind the scenes about everything that she was gifted. And I mean, she can say, "Well, I worked hard. I'm a natural good athlete. You know, I don't look this way by accident. I take care of myself." I mean, those are wonderful. But there's a real gift that she's been given early in her career, and I don't see, honestly, a respect for the knowledge of what it really takes to be a star, or she's flailing. She's trying hard and flailing that it's a complete collapse of the support system in WWE to steer her in a better direction. And I think they're just googly eyed over what she looks like. And they think Tiffy time, again, crowd participation, communal experience, way too much of a priority put on that, or too much value put on that, when it comes at the expense of things that matter more otherwise. Darrell wants to know, he said, this is a real good question. We'll be the judge of that. Is Tiffy worse off than Charlotte right now? Because I remember people used to say how robotic Charlotte was. I don't think Tiffy works as either heel or face. She sounds bad. Charlotte's come a long way. But yeah, I mean, is Charlotte an example of somebody who progressed Javier, where there's hope. I mean, I think they're two very different people. Charlotte grew up in the business, didn't want to be a wrestler, but grew up in the business and became one because of her late brother. Tiffy, I don't know. She comes across as somebody who's defining what it takes to be a wrestler very shallow and superficially, and isn't given the support she needs to grow. I see them as different, but I get bringing them up. What do you think, Javier?
Yeah, I think there's a much more vast difference there because I think Charlotte's gotten better now because I think she's let go of the idea that she has to be the number one woman. Because I think that that's what had held her back, and she had some of her interviews when she just recently came back was about that stuff. So that having to be the perfect, I think the reason she felt robotic was because she had to be the perfect person to live up to the legacy of her father, her promise to her brother, and all that stuff. So I think when she let go of that, I think she's gotten a lot more, she became a lot more human. So I think it's a much bigger separate from Tiffany. I think Tiffany's just been directed poorly. I don't know behind the scenes. I don't know her, so I don't know how she's taken for it, or if she's just like doing what they tell her to do, or if that's like or how much stroke she has to push the direction of her character. But yeah, everything you were talking about, what she did today, again, perfect if she's a heel. Yeah. And I'm not necessarily even necessarily like a top heel, like you want to see her as a champion that people get beat, but like a Miz level, like get just be someone who's annoying that you like to see get beat up.
Finish your thought. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I don't know if this will resonate with you because it's a AW reference, but I think she'd be great in the Don Callis family. Like have Don Callis speaking for her, or Stokely Hathaway with FTR. Like this just super contrast of everyone else in the group, but the guys are just fighting over her in the group, and you have a manager doing all the talking, and she's just standing there like like Chris Masters. Just look at me, look at my cleavage, look at my body, look at this face, and she's just finds these mannerisms that you would find so off-putting you'd pay money to boo her. But then she would make you even more angry because she was a good athlete in the ring, but then she'd take shortcuts. She'd have to be good at selling. And then you would, delight in seeing her sell, and you'd resent the shortcuts. Having her sort of stand in the background for a manager who is boasting about all the shallow things that he as a shallow person values, there's money in that. I think that would work well. Having her stand alone in the ring, cutting babyface promos. It's almost sabotage, or it's disqualifying for whoever decided that's a good idea to fill TV time. Derek Mitchell says, all we need to see is Tiffany in an American Jeans commercial. She just comes off as disingenuous. So Ruka uses her acrobatics, but is likable. Sean Plishta says she hasn't done anything good in my opinion since she beat Charlotte at Mania. Tiffany might be a good person, but you don't feel that on television at all. And I do want to say, and I say this like when I'm critical of announcing, a lot of times I'm critical of the announcing, not the announcer, depending on the agency they have. Oftentimes they're being told what to say and how to say it. I'm being critical of the end product. Tiffany's end product is a product of teamwork. It's a product of a process and a whole creative process, and it is failing her, but I'm not ruling out the possibility she's contributing to the failure of it also. But mostly what we're certain of collectively, pretty unanimously, is putting her in the ring to talk on the microphone as a babyface feels like a really big mistake and unfair to the Tiffany Stratton, the person, because I don't know if she's self-aware enough to know how uncomfortable it is to watch her in this role. I don't know if I hope she is or not. I guess for a future, you hope she understands what's happening or she grows into that knowledge, but it is not, it is not personal. But when you ask people to pay thousands of dollars to watch wrestlers in person and watch them on TV every week, when there's so many options, they're public figures, and it's okay to critique and react and analyze. Everybody does that in different ways in terms of how they spend their time watching and spending on entertainment. And people who are really into it, really passionate about it, and want to see it work, which is, I think, everybody in the chat, everybody here, you evaluate the end product, and anybody who gets TV time who's flailing is displacing somebody else who probably would be better. So that's where the spirit of this critique comes from. Rich, do you want to add anything else before we turn the page? You're muted, by the way, Rich. It's so fun to say that to someone else.
Helps if I unmute. No, I think that's a pretty good overview of Tiffany. And my hope is that as she gets good direction and listens, that'll help change the tide of some of the negative opinions that have been kind of espoused.
Anything else you want to say, Javier?
Yeah, and just to be clear, like, I think the reason I don't know about you, Wade, but the reason I'm ticked off is that I think there's potential there for her to actually be something that's worth exploring or having on your team, and it feels like it's failed on so many levels that it's a question of like, what are they doing? So, do
you agree that a heel manager? I mean, WWE doesn't have a perfect fit, I don't think, in that regard. But Rich, you were nodding along to Stokely and Don Callis and that kind of thing. I mean, I would be searching for a manager to do her talking and turn her heel and have her be in the background. I mean, I don't have to micro manage exactly what it's going to be, but for the sake of example, illustratively, having her stand in the background in love with herself, like Chris Masters in front of a mirror, the narcissist Lex Luger in front of a mirror, feels like a real natural fit. But take the mic away from her, other than an utterance here and there to remind us of how much we want her to lose and fail at her career, storyline wise.
Yeah, I was John Callis,
Stone.
Go ahead, Rich.
Oh, I thought Stone would be a good example if he hadn't been the interim NXT general manager, as far as someone who has a look that would be comparable to hers, but can do a little bit better with the mic. And the former Robbie could have some fun pulling some things out of her, like what they used to do with Eminem and all that, MXM and all that fun stuff.
I think the problem with Robert Stone is, and why do you think it's a problem that there's not enough gravitas to that it would kind of define her down a little bit if it was almost like this? Like, to me, you want to have, and I think Stokely hits the threshold more than Robert Stone, and certainly Don Callis does, where there's sort of a authoritative alpha leader who is not exploiting her because that makes her sympathetic, but is using her in the way that it's established he uses his talent, but then is focusing on things so shallow and distasteful that you root against both of them. And Robert Stone feels to me that it would just be a little too Ash, who's the Ash by Elegance guy? What do they call him?
The concierge.
The concierge. Yeah, it'd be a little too much that. And I think what you want is something a little more serious as the front of her character. And otherwise, her traits that are heelish become cartoonish, and then there's not main event money in that.
I think that's fair, but I think if you couple it, and maybe she needs to be defined down a little bit just to get her out of the limelight and out of the firing squad. If you couple that with her, and this might sound silly, talking to a Trish, because Trish, when she was at her worst as a heel, had a way of making you despise what she was saying without it going too much into ogling her. Like, folks were annoyed at her. Even now when she came back and she's like soccer mom heel, that stuff is still kind of effective, even though she still has the Canadian sorry and she's still kind of sort of polite, but she's still being a jerk about it. I think she just needs better guidance, because right now where she's getting her cues from isn't helping her.
There we go. All right. Let's shift to talking about Carmelo Hayes, what they did with him this week. Also, Matt Cardona and Apollo Crews interacting with him. We can get into Matt Cardona a little bit. Sean Radican texted me during SmackDown going, do you think this is Matt Cardona's vision for what he would do? I think Matt fancied himself someone who took the Drew McIntyre, Cody Rhodes journey, and he'd come in and be a big deal. I texted Sean. I said, no, I mean, I hope he's more self-aware than that. It's nice he's back, but I think he's, in my opinion, in the spot that he belongs in and probably always has. Javier, I saw you nodding a little bit. Maybe comment on that.
Oh yeah, no. I if he expected that, I doubt he expected that. I think he's fine just collecting the paycheck, and not have to work so hard for it. I think I did not overall like this, because again, this felt kind of like a bait and switch. I kind of expected it coming anyway, with the whole Dragunov. I knew they were not going to give us Dragunov and Carmelo for this one, and then it felt, I don't know, it felt like old school booking to me, where it's like a bunch of people come out and let's just have a 10-man tag. It just felt kind of, the entire thing kind of felt weird. But hey, Carmelo deserves a break, because he's been carrying a lot of these Smackdowns on his back with the wrestling he's been doing lately. So give him a break for a bit. But I thought it was weird, and it was just like a way just to get everybody on the show, I think. Rich?
Yeah, go ahead, Rich. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Carmelo, like you said, he's been doing so well that this was kind of a one-off to go to the 10-man tag and to kind of have what they would call an AEW, a mini party match. And so
Joe
I didn't
Tessitore,
mind it.
sorry, Rich, was so excited about 10 men. 10 men, 10 men. He was over the top. It just means everyone gets a little less time in the ring. Anyway, sorry, Rich, go ahead.
No, it's fine. And and I like the group that was in there because first of all, I was trying to figure out, like, from a math standpoint, I'm like, okay, so did I miss, like, because at first they were like, it's a 10-man, and I'm like, there's only 9 people out here. And then they play Shinsuke's music, and he kind of like skedaddles on down. And I appreciated that he danced while approaching the ring. It wasn't full Jeff Hardy where he had to kind of get his whole moveset in before he could run down and save someone.
Mm-hmm.
And that was fine. I liked all of them. Eschewing the open challenge this week for a collection of folks that could be future opponents, I thought that was fine. Ilya Dragunov, anytime you get him out and wrestling with folks is a treat. And so I like that. And Cardona, this is, what is it, month 3 of him being back? I get what Sean's saying, and I get what you're saying, Wade, but I think the story is yet to be told. I think he could move up a little further, but some of the stuff that he did that got him where he was at in GCW, he can't use the foul language. He can't use the doors. He can't use the thumbtacks and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So he's going to have to figure out how to swim back in these waters without it being something that kind of overtakes him, because a guy like The Miz has a better lay of the land right now. Heck, his wife has a better lay of the land with a broken ankle and still gets the TV time, and she's still being posited as an important character than he does right now. And that's just the way things are. And I think he's got to be okay with that. And sure, I would love to see that rewarded where a guy's worked hard, but it's WWE. This is not a place where they're going to give you a handout main event. He's going to have to figure something out that gets him up to a LA Knight status, because he had been there once upon a time. But I think because the folks that are there that are booking are the guys that remember him as the guy they put in the wheelchair and shoved off the little road there. There's always going to be a little bit of that little brother syndrome he's going to have to fight through.
Did you think he was, can't think of a better term, but dying out there a little bit in the ring early on in his solo promo? Like, it felt like he's been having all these good matches and all that, but like, and he had confidence. I mean, I thought he seemed sure-footed, but I think he was sort of noticing there's not a lot of reaction to what I'm doing. He wasn't out there long, but I was kind of bummed out in the crowd. Like, but I don't know, maybe they're just so used to communal, simple-minded chants that just reacting to somebody who should have earned their respect and they should be listening to, and cheering, it's sort of lost the way WWE has kind of dumbed down some of the ways that wrestlers are over. Did that strike you out, Rich? I mean, I don't think it was a big deal, but I'm wondering if anyone shared that kind of brief moment before Dragunov.
I think that does. And I also think, having seen them both separately on SmackDown, when he was on NXT, a lot of the times when he would do a promo like that, he would have Trick in the background to play off of.
Yep.
And so the more and it's helpful for both, because the more they keep them away from each other, Carmelo's still learning, I can do this on my own. And Trick is mastered to the point he is in his career. I can do this. I've been in another promotion. I've done this act. I've taken it on the road, so to speak. And that's just a step that Carmelo's never did. And so he's learning it, much like we mentioned with some of the other wrestlers, as he's trying to do it on the main roster.
Javier, what do you think?
Yeah, I didn't really pick up on that at the moment, but now I'm thinking about it, I got to go back and watch that, because it felt more like polite than anything else. Which is weird, because I mean, like I said, he's been pretty much carrying the wrestling of the show for the last couple of weeks. So,
and I'm talking about like 30 seconds. Like, I mean, but it was designed to get the crowd to sort of this groundswell of we got your back, because they're popping for his moves and his matches, and he's really come a long way, I think, in forging a bond with the audience, or so they thought. And then he goes, "I've earned my opportunity at WrestleMania. There should be cheers. I'm going to shoot for the main event.
Yeah.
Yay, Carmelo. Next week I'll qualify for the chamber. Do it, Carmelo. And when I shoot, Miz don't miss." And then there just wasn't that sort of, we're with you on this. And I don't know, And
I don't know if that's just because the crowd knows that he's not going to be in that position.
That's part of it. Yeah.
That's part, that's I think part of it. But yeah, you would think that we'd at least, have something like the like a Sami Zayn kind of thing. You know what I mean?
But I was going to bring him up. Sammy earned it over decades, basically.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm not giving up on Carmelo by any means. I'm not holding it against him. I think he's done well. It's just I think it can be a moment where you're like, oh shoot, I could imagine him thinking, I thought I would have gotten a little bit better response, but live and learn. Kind of figure out what didn't work, or maybe it's just not time. Or like you said, Javier, the key is, yeah, right. You're a title, we love you, but you're not going to headline WrestleMania, and we're not going to pop for something that we know isn't going to happen. Derek Mitchell's a super chat related to the 10-man tag here. Thank you, Derek, as always. When Solo debuted, he was portrayed as intimidating and stoic. Since Roman lost the undisputed title at WrestleMania 40, he's shown more character, but he doesn't seem likely to move beyond mid-card status. Goodfella adds, Solo's so funny, mocking Mello. Solo's my guy. LOL. And Derek says, yeah, I agree more. Solo talked the more he has gone down the ladder. Pile Driver Pete says, Solo got a laugh out of me. I think his wheelhouse is a little bit of comedy. Javier, what do you think of Solo right now and where he is, and especially tonight?
Thing is, the stuff he's been involved with the Wyatts not been my favorite thing, pretty much. I think he's in a better place than he was a little while ago, but not where he had been before. I think that's pretty much obvious. And I think that today for me was kind of a wash. Right now, of that group, the one I'm more interested in, because they've been doing more interesting stuff with, has been Tama Tonga. With the whole stuff with Shinsuke and with him pinning Mello. I think that eventually we're going to get Tama Tonga versus Mello, and it's just that, man, this Wyatt 6 has been poisonous for me. And because it's mainly what Solo's doing, I have a hard time really getting into anything that he's doing. I think he's doing fine, but it's every time I turn off the lights, I'm like, man, can we just get out of here?
If this was a Judgment Day, the JD McDonough of the group would unwrinkle that caricature of him with a lantern in his mouth and frame it for the next Solo MFT segment at a table. Just put it on a frame on the table as a gag. That was a fun drawing, and he wrinkled it all up. Someone worked hard on that. Rich, you want to add anything?
I don't think so. I mean, for me, I love anytime Tama Tonga has his war paint on. That's one of the coolest things I've seen in wrestling. And so having that, that's cooler than the Wyatt 6 in terms of we got the lantern that Bray used, and now we're going to be standing in the vestibule next to someone who just got some popcorn. And I get what you're saying, Javier, but I love the fact that, and I was talking to Sean about that, since this is the Sean Radican live reaction show, that the way I look at Tama Tonga and Tongaloa and all these other guys with regards to Solo now is Solo has some pretty Sami Zayn-esque slick lines he throws in, where if you're not paying attention, you forget the fact that it's Solo saying it, and they're not undercutting the character, but it's a mastery of the character and him slipping and kind of just having fun with it in a way where we were just talking about Tiffany. We were just talking about Carmelo. He's learned what Solo Sikoa is on television. And so now he can mess with the lines a little bit. So even if it isn't 100% perfect promo, he's having fun with that character in a way where you're paying attention, as opposed to, unfortunately, with the 6, where I'm just like, oh God, these guys again.
By the way, these 3-hour Smackdowns have wreaked havoc on my dog, because he's used to getting his late night dinner about a half hour ago, and he's just sitting under me, just looking at me, pawing at me, licking my hand, and now barking, going, "Come on, it's way past food time. I don't know what you're doing with that headset on this late." That's for our YouTube audience who sees me glancing down. There's always cats or dogs around or whatever distracting me. It's a zoo around here. By the way, Real Legend says Dexter Loomis probably did that drawing that I was referring to. That was taped to the door. I agree that now that I think about it, it looked very much like his style. By the way, you two can comment on this. Derek says Tongaloa might be the laziest looking performer I've seen in a long time. His kicks look so lazy, and he seemed uninterested. Talk about it, all the matches you've seen of his in New Japan. Rich.
Oh, okay. I was like, wait a minute, which one of us? Because Harry could do that first. Too.
I know.
I think Tongaloa is I mean, shoot, if you want to go back, we could just talk about him as Camacho in WWE and say his kicks were terrible there. I definitely see him, like Tama Tonga has always been a guy. I thought if he got out of New Japan, he would be great. Tonga Loa came with his brother. That's the best I could say in terms of, like, I never saw him. So, for instance, when we go back to G1s, Tama Tonga in the G1 was a guy who would, everyone's getting beat up, and he would, from what I've heard, give hard time to wrestlers because they didn't make the gym the next morning while they were making the next town on the G1, because he could do that stuff and then lift after, because his army training and him he's a body beautiful guy. He wants to do that. Tonga Loa would just kind of meander and be like, do I have to be in the G1? And so that's where you see that with some of the stuff you see as a single. He doesn't necessarily bring it as much as his brother does. And that's just who he is. I think WWE knew what they got when they got him, but they wanted the Gorillas of Destiny. They just didn't want Tama Tonga. Do you think that's fair, Javier?
Yeah, I mean, he looks good. He has a certain level of charisma. He is what we used to see in tag team. He's the guy that was dragged along because he fulfilled the tag team. And then when they break up, he's the one that retires while the other one one gets stuff done. I don't hate him in the ring when he's like as part of a tag team and just doing some stuff here and there. Solo wise, when he was in the G1s, I probably have to have the rank my ratings over there for the ones that I was watching. I don't think he ever had higher than like a 3.5 match. So when people were regularly having 4s and 4.5s, so he's fine. That's pretty much it. But I think wrestling's moved kind of a little bit beyond fine. So that's kind of where
Yeah. All right. Let's see if there's something else on this topic. Oh, Standard Deviation says, I think Solo's landed where he always was likely to land as a character. Heyman worked his magic on Solo for his debut year. Yeah, I mean, there's no shame in where he is. I mean, he's sort of sneaky, funny, sort of intimidating, but, upper mid-card. But, he's fine on the roster.
And I think they would have worked harder on him had Jacob Fatu not come in too.
Yeah. I think there's something to that. I don't know if it's right to just go up. There's our Simone slot, so you're moving down. Like, I mean, but I get what you're saying, and I think they're from even a storyline something to it.
Well, I mean, because Solo was the rough and tough member of that group, and when he was that version of the character was replaced by Jacob. So I liked when he became kind of like the Mafia Don character. I liked that. They've kind of moved away from that. Every now and then they still do a promo with him, because I love that imagery of him sitting in the center and all the other Tongans around him. That's an awesome imagery, and I kind of wish they did more of that, and made that group feel dangerous. Because I mean, look the way they look like they should feel more dangerous. But with this whole Wyatt Six, that's why I've been frustrated. I don't even want to think about Solo anymore.
Fair enough. By the way, I just got this. Swole74 says, as someone from Dallas Fort Worth, can people stop pretending the only thing we talk about is everything is bigger in Texas? Yeah. It's like the phone booth in the UK shows in the 90s and the 2000s. Like, just come on, like, grow beyond that. There's other things in certain cities that get way more attention they deserve, but I think everything's bigger in Texas is probably number one on the list that I can think of. Okay. For the sake of my voice, I want to wrap up soon here. For the sake of my dogs, they're poor starving boys. Got to get to them. But there's other things on the show we didn't talk about, so I want to give Rich and Javier a chance to bring them up. There was the Shelley Sabin, Axiom, Nathan Frazier thing with Gargano and LeRae. Head into Valentine's Day. I got nothing left. Is your wife standing right next to you? I thought that was a fine moment. That would be my thing to kind of sneak in. I mean, that was a nice moment in a segment of TV that if this was a 2-hour show, I would not miss. And I don't think Shelley and Sabin dreamed of this being their job at this stage. Rich, comment on that if you want. I see your body language, but you bring anything else up from the show we haven't too.
for me, this is, we talked about CM Punk doing an interview, and he said he's trying to take the toothpaste back into the tube. This is stretching the toothpaste to an unnatural chemical composition level. They cannot sustain having 3-hour SmackDowns. And you add this stuff, and we just got over Raw losing that stuff, and we have a pretty svelte show. SmackDown does not have the roster nor the writing to sustain this level of watered downness, because we had 3 versions of the same Valentine's angle over the course of a 3-hour show with just different protagonists, antagonists. And so I think that it's not necessary. I love the fact that Alex Shelley had been working in like home hospice care and like just doing like really good things for the community. And this, they gave him enough money where he could do that and like focus on wrestling too. But this is not fun, man. Like the silly, I really wish there was an ombudsman or ombudsperson that could come in and just say, we have 3 dumb angles. We should only be allowed to have 1 dumb angle per show. And just be like, guys, we got to like get more serious. And if that means we got to change fundamentally a storyline, so be it. But there's no reason the Motor City Machine Guns should not have wrestled. They haven't wrestled in what, 3 months?
All right, Javier, your turn. Got a gripe? Or something else to give?
Gargano's a guilty pleasure for me. So, yeah. so I take that over the Wyatt stuff that they're doing right now. I'd like to see the Motor City Machine Guns wrestle at some point, but apparently they don't. That's not what they hired them for. One of the things I noticed about that, Rich mentioning it being stretched, was like, I'm with you, Wade, on the packages, video packages and stuff. There was a lot of video packages and recaps on the show, and longer than usual recaps, for quite a bit. I know you had like a bunch of important matches and stuff, but there was plenty of stretching in this episode.
Now, I want to differentiate too, and I want to get clarification from you. Like, if you have a triple threat match and you do a vignette that's produced with each of the wrestlers leading into the match, I don't consider that a video package in the sense of recapping something. And I'm not against recapping things that happen. People are busy. They don't see every show. There's storyline beats you want to emphasize, and those video packages can do that. But there can be too much of that, and they can be bloated. But I do not have a problem at all if you have a triple threat match building that main event up during the show. And I don't want to mark them down for overdoing it, because they do something that I think every wrestling company should do, which is we should hear from the main eventers who are in the main event, whether it's a straight up backstage promo or a vignette. So are you counting those also as too much?
I'm counting the amount of time they spent on them too much, because normally you would get a pithy, this is what you need to know. This felt like we're going to slow down and describe the tree that they're standing by. Mm-hmm. So to set up the stage, it felt more like what you would give. Every single one of those felt more like what you would give a main event in terms of like length and it felt like it was done to stretch the amount of time that they were doing. And they all got like, a lot of them got long intros too, where they would cut to Testator and saying, we're now going to look at what happened a couple weeks ago on this, and they usually don't do that. They usually just show you the clip, and they might talk over it while it's on there. It just felt like the pacing of it was done to stretch it as long as possible, which is what I mentioned. I don't want to sound like, hey, let's get rid of video packages and this stuff. Yeah. But this felt like specifically, I think this because the last 2 shows I saw didn't feel 3 hours. It felt a little bit 3 hours. It felt 2.5 hours. Didn't feel 3 hours. This one felt. I'm looking at my watch to see what time it was. Because it was just it felt really slow in terms of like the pacing and how they broke up the segments.
Do you think the Cody Jacob Fatu one is an example of just superfluous? Like we know we don't need that. What did that serve? Or did you like? Is that something you would have kept in?
No, I mean the if you're talking about the Fatu where he's giving like the promo and that.
No, there was a video recap. It wasn't Fatu hyping his goal to headline WrestleMania. That was building to the match. It was later on where Testator just threw to a recap. I think it was later, might have been earlier, where he threw to a recap of the of Cody and Fatu.
Yeah, those should be shorter. That would be something I would consider shorter, because it is your hottest it's your hottest storyline. It's the one that people most likely to.
It was a sponsored video package. That's what it was. I can't remember the yeah. And so they those things. I mean, you sort of like it's almost a commercial wrapped in wrestling action. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm more for or against it, but for context, it was the sponsored one. That's why it felt superfluous. Yeah.
Yeah, and that would explain then why you would have to hit a certain length because the advertisers pay for it. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to bring up on your own, Javier, from the show that we didn't cover?
No, I mean we didn't cover the Rio EO, so Rich
that's why.
It was a fine, it was okay match, but you had another DQ. I'm assuming that's going to mean that would lead into a some sort of no DQ match down the road for them. So,
Rich, you jumped in on that.
Yeah, I thought that was good. I mean, Rio is a great tag team. That was part of what we were talking about with the failed beginning of the show, and as they're setting up for the women's elimination chamber, it looks like there's going to be some pretty cool dynamics going on there. And so I'm looking forward to seeing who actually qualifies. And yeah, I can see the future of this being, I like the way that Rhea posited it. If we're in here, we'll eliminate everybody else and then we'll just handle it ourselves, as opposed to the Rumble, which we saw again, repeated later, where Charlotte and Alexa are still smarting relationship wise from the elimination that was kind of through a third party, but still betrayal nonetheless.
Very good. Javier, anything else?
No, that's pretty much what I got.
All right, feed that dog, Wade.
I know. Thank you. Rich, thank you. Great having you on a post show here. And Javier, great having you on 2 weeks in a row. Thanks for saving my voice somewhat. I don't know how I did, talking less than usual. I don't want to hear if I didn't, because then when my throat hurts later, I'll be self-critical. I don't need anyone else being critical. Thank you, Javier.
Thank you. You made me hungry. Now I got to figure out where I can get some pizza.
Very good. Sounds good. Make sure it's good. All right. You can become a VIP member in multiple ways. One way is a 7-day free trial with Patreon. Just search PWTorch VIP in Patreon or Spotify. Get 7 days unlocking all our VIP shows, including versions of our free shows that without the commercial breaks. So a nice streamlined listening experience. No video packages either. We can promise you that. You can also search PWTorch in the Apple Podcast app and get free samples of VIP shows and unlock using your Apple account with just a single fingerprint tap, whatever. And you're subscribed. You're unlocking our shows, all the VIP shows that go up too, the VIP exclusives. And then you can unlock full VIP membership with access to our website and our archives, customizable podcast feeds that work on Apple Podcasts and other iOS and Android apps. PWTorch.com/GoVIP is the headquarters for all information on VIP membership and all the options. PWTorch.com/GoVIP. Please check out our post show tomorrow. It is very likely to happen after AEW's Grand Slam event that starts at 8 Eastern, ends at 10:30 Eastern. So we expect to be live here on YouTube. If you want to listen to the podcast version of that, it'll be on the PWTorch Dailycast feed. We'll be branding tomorrow's show essentially a Wrestling Night in America weekend live show. So don't look for it here on the Wade Keller post show. Look for it on the PWTorch Dailycast. If you're not a VIP member, but you want to get all the shows that are free, just search PWTorch and then search Wade Keller, and you can subscribe to everything that pops up for free. You have separate feeds for our different groups of shows. Check out our website, pwtorch.com, and everybody have a great weekend. Thanks to the chat, as always, for your wonderful contributions to the show, and we'll talk to you next time if my voice allows for it.